You reach out slowly, expecting that familiar warmth, that quiet little exchange you shared so many times before. But your cat turns away. Maybe they slip from your lap. Maybe they flatten their ears. Maybe they simply stare at your hand as if it belongs to a stranger. And in that tiny moment, something deeper than disappointment can rise up inside you. It can feel personal. It can feel like rejection. But pause there, because what if that feeling is telling only half the story? For many people, a cat's affection is supposed to look like a soft purr, a long cuddle, a body that leans in and never leaves. But cats do not speak that language as humans do. They don't measure love by how long they are held or how often they are touched. Their world is built on something quieter, more ancient, and far more precise. Trust, timing, territory, and the invisible line between comfort and overload. A cat may love you deeply and still not want your hand on their back at that exact moment. They may choose your presence over your touch, your voice over your embrace, your shadow in the room over your fingers on their fur. That is not a failure of bond. Often, it is the bond itself, expressed in the language your cat feels safest using. And yet, it's easy to misunderstand. A cat that pulls away can trigger something tender in us. We wonder, did I do something wrong? Do they not feel close to me anymore? Am I asking for too much? But cats are not denying love when they set a boundary. Sometimes they are simply saying, not now, not there, not like that. That distinction changing sentence. Because when we stop treating touch as proof of love, we begin to see something far more beautiful. Affection as permission. A relationship, not on control, but on mutual safety. And once you understand that, the little moments start to speak differently. The twitch of a tail, the sideways step, the slow blink, the return to your side when they're ready. So if your cat has ever dodged your hand, stiffened in your arms, or seemed to accept affection only on their own terms, you are not alone. And your cat may be telling you something important. In a moment, we are going to uncover why they do this, what it really means, and how to recognize the difference between rejection and a request for trust. At first glance, a cat pulling away can look like a simple choice, almost a personal verdict. But cats do not speak in the language of human disappointment. They speak in thresholds, in angles, in pauses. What feels like rejection to us is often something far more subtle. A boundary being expressed before trust is broken. A cat's body is a living map of emotion. The tail that flicks once, the ears that turn slightly backward, the skin that tightens along the back, the eyes that narrow just a little too much. These are not random gestures. They are quiet sentences. And when we ignore them, even lovingly, we may be asking for closeness in a moment when the cat is asking for space. That is where confusion begins, not because your cat does not care, but because care, for them, has rules that are not written in our human hearts. Some cats were touched too roughly before they ever met you. Some learned early that hands can appear without warning. Others may be carrying pain so private that even a gentle stroke along the wrong place feels like a threat. And then there are cats who simply need more control over their own bodies than we expect them to need. They are not being difficult. They are protecting something precious. They're protecting safe. If you have ever sat quietly beside your cat and watched them hover near you without fully settling into your hand, you have seen this tension up close. They may want your presence and still not want your touch. They may follow you room to room, sleep near your feet, blink slowly from across the couch, and still decline to be picked up or petted on demand. That does not mean the bond is weak. Sometimes it means the bond is real enough to be honest. And honestly is where deeper connection begins. Not with insistence, not with come here, but with, well, are you ready? That one shift can change everything. Because when a cat feels understood, they often become more willing to meet you halfway. Respect, in their world, is not a luxury. It is the doorway. So pay attention to what your cat is telling you before the touch, not after the pull away. Notice the invitation before the retreat. And if this is something you've struggled with, give this a like and stay with me, because the signs your cat gives before they say no are clearer than most people are than most people are than that. Maybe your cat runs from affection. Maybe they only accept petting on their terms. Or maybe they turn loving touch into a sudden bite. Whatever their pattern, there is meaning in it. And once you learn to read it, the whole relationship begins to shift. A cat's refusal is often quiet, but it is never empty. It carries meaning in the smallest movements. The turning of a head, the stiffening of a shoulder, the tail that flicks once and then goes still. What feels like coldness is often a boundary. What feels like distance may actually be communication. And once you begin to see touch through a cat's eyes, you realize that affection is not always an invitation to more contact. Sometimes it is a request to be understood. Imagine a cat lying in a patch of late afternoon light, body loose, eyes half closed. To us, that picture feels like an open door. We reach out, believing we are stepping into a moment of connection. But for the cat, the moment may be different. Maybe the air was calm a second ago, and then a hand entered too quickly. Maybe a memory surfaced before the hand even made contact. Maybe the cat simply had enough touch from it. Cats do not measure love by how much they can endure. They measure safety by whether their needs are honored. And this is where so many loving people get hurt. They are not asking from control. They are asking from tenderness. They want closeness, comfort, proof that the bond is real. But the cat's language is older, quieter, and far more exact. A cat can choose to sit near you without wanting to be held. A cat can follow you from room to room and still reject your hand. A cat can purr and still say, "Note there," or "Cat." That does not make the connection weaker. In some ways, it makes it more honest. If you have ever felt that sting of being pulled away from, take a breath before you take it personally. There is wisdom in pause. There is dignity in letting the cat be the one to come closer. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is lower your hand and wait. Watch the ears. Watch the bed ear. Watch for the soft approach that only happens when trust is not demanded, but earned. If this feels familiar, leave a like so this message can reach someone else who needs some. And tell me in the comments, what does your cat resist most? Being held, belly rubs, surprise petting, or affection on your terms? Because understanding begins the moment we stop asking, "Why won't my cat love me?" and start asking, "What is my cat trying to say?" The first breakthrough comes when you stop asking, "Why won't my cat love me the way I want?" and start asking, "What is my cat trying to tell me?" That small shift changes everything, because a cat who turns away from your hand is not always closing a door. Sometimes, they are simply setting a boundary, and in the world of cats, boundaries are not insults. They are information. Think about how often people mistake tolerance for permission. A cat may sit beside you for a while, then suddenly leave when the petting lasts 1 second too long. To a human heart, that can feel confusing, even hurtful. But to a cat, it may be as natural as saying, "That's enough for now." Their nervous system is finely tuned. What feels soothing at first can quickly become too much, especially if the touch is repetitive, unpredictable, or focused on a place they do not enjoy. A tail flick, a tense back, ears turning sideways, skin rippling under your fingers. These are not random movements. They are whispered truths. And sometimes the reason goes deeper than preference. A cat with a painful hip, a sore neck, or a tender belly may reject touch because contact hurts. Another cat, shaped by a rough past, may not yet know that hands can be gentle. You may be offering affection, but their body remembers fear. That is why patience matters more than persuasion. Love is not proven by how much contact you can get. Sometimes love is proven by how well you can wait. Watch what happens when you kneel beside them and let them come first. Watch their shoulders, their whiskers, the way their gaze softens when they feel safe. Even a cat that never enjoys being held can build a deep bond with you through shared space, quiet routines, and moments of consent. A slow blink across the room, a head bump against your leg. These are not small things. They are the cat's version of trust. If this is resonating with you, take a moment and give the video a like. Not because the cat always says yes, but because understanding them is its own kind of affection. And if you've ever felt puzzled by your cat's mixed signals, stay with me, because the next part is where the real key appears. How to recognize the difference between no now and no. When you begin to see your cat's refusal as communication instead of rejection, everything changes. The room is still the same, the hand is still yours, but the meaning is different now. A cat that turns away, flicks an ear, or slips out of reach is not always saying, "I don't love you." Often, they are saying, "Not like that. Not now. Not here." And for a creature whose sense of safety is built on control, that distinction matters more than we realize. A cat's body speaks long before any purr or meow does. The tail that tightens, the skin that ripples along the back, the brief freeze before they move away. These are not signs to push harder. They are invitations to listen deeper. Because trust is never proven by taking more than they are ready to give. Trust grows when they learn that your hands can stop before their comfort does. That you can notice the signal, respect it, and remain calm anyway. Maybe this is why some of the strongest bonds with cats are built in quiet moments, not dramatic ones. A cat sitting nearby without being touched. A slow blink from across the sofa. A brief lean of the head into your fingers, followed by a graceful departure. To human eyes, it can seem small. But to a cat, it is a whole conversation. And when you answer that conversation with patience instead of disappointment, you become someone safe. If you've ever felt the sting of loving a cat who keeps their distance, you were not alone. Many people mistake boundaries for coldness, when in truth, boundaries are often the very shape of love in a cat's world. They may choose closeness in short, precise doses. They may prefer your presence over your hands. They may ask for affection on their terms, and that is not manipulation. It is honesty. And honestly, that kind of relationship can teach us something profound. Love does not always arrive as surrender. Sometimes it arrives as respect. Sometimes it is built in the spaces between contact, in the decision to wait, to observe, to let the cat come first. If this is making you see your cat differently, take a moment to like the video and tell me in the comments, does your cat run from affection, dislike being held, bite when touched, or only accept petting when they decide it's time? In the final part, I show you how to recognize the exact moments when your cat is truly inviting touch. And maybe that is the quiet truth waiting at the center of it all. Your cat's distance is not always a verdict on your love. Sometimes it is a boundary. Sometimes it is a memory. Sometimes it is the only way they know how to say, "I need a little more safety before I can come closer." When you begin to see rejection through that lens, something softens inside you. The sting turns into patience. The need to be chosen right now gives way to something deeper, something steadier, because the bond you share with a cat is not built in grand gestures. It is built in small, repeated moments of respect. The slow blink from across the room. The hand offered, then paused. The choice you give them to stay or step away. And in those choices, trust begins to grow. Not the loud kind of trust that asks for constant closeness, but the sacred kind that says, that is often where real affection begins. So the next time your cat turns away, do not rush to measure your worth by that moment. Pause. Notice the room, the time, the tension in their body, the history they may be carrying. Ask yourself not, why don't they love me? But, what are they telling me? That single shift can change everything. It can make you calmer, kinder, wiser in the way you love. If this spoke to something you have felt, give the video a like so more people can understand that a cat's no is not always rejection. And I did like to ask you something personal. What is the hardest part for you right now? Does your cat run from affection, refuse to be held, bite when touched, or only accept petting on their own terms? If you want to keep learning the quiet language of pets, subscribe, because there is so much more to discover about what they are really saying when they choose distance and when they finally choose to stay.